Hey guys, it's your girl T and it's time for another recap of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And when I tell y'all, we had a good old funky time on Twitter going in on these bitches, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So during the reunion, everybody looked really fly except for Nene. I don't know what the hell was going on with Nene's head, but I'm gonna need her to get her life. First of all, Nene's always talking about she's a rich bitch and she got it like that and she's all this and she's all that. This broad had on a two-tone lace front wig. This damn wig was glued to her fucking scalp. Then she had the nerve to have a damn bun in the back that wasn't even matching the color of her lace front. I'm sitting there like, what kind of shit is this? Her hairstyle could be seen in any project in North America. I'm like, I thought you were supposed to be rich, bitch. What the hell is up with your hair? Nene looked a hot-ass mess during that whole reunion show. She was acting like she didn't want to be there. This bitch had me checking my invisible watch like, damn, is it time to go? Does Minnie have somewhere else to be? I mean, the bitch was acting like she didn't even want to be there half the time. Rolling her eyes and getting an attitude and smacking her lips. I'm like, okay, this is a show that made you. Stop acting like you are so much better than being on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Folks wouldn't even know who you were if it wasn't for this show, Nene. I'm gonna need you to humble your ass just a tad bit, okay? Moving on to the next chick. So Phaedra was there and Phaedra was looking fly. Her hair was done. Her makeup was on point. She looked really pretty. You can tell she's lost a lot of weight ever since having her child. And Phaedra came with a lot of attitude and she was going back and forth. And Andy had asked her about the whole Apollo situation. And basically she said that her name was not an indictment and that it has nothing to do with her and that she's going to stand by her husband because that's the father of her children. Moving on to the next girl. So Kandi was there. Kandi was looking fly as ever. She was just glowing. She was happy. She was talking about her wedding to Todd. She was getting married in a week. And basically she announced that the cameras were following her and that Todd and her were getting a spinoff where they're going to be recording her wedding just like they did for Nene and Greg. So I can't wait to check that out. Kandi looked fabulous as always. Now on to Miss Porsha. So Porsha was there. Her hair was on point. She looked gorgeous. Porsha got some new titties. Them damn titties was bigger than mine. I'm like, damn, Porsha. Porsha just came out. She had them showing. They was glistening. She even asked Andy if he wanted to scratch and sniff her damn titties. I'm like, Porsha is doing too damn much right now on this damn stage. So moving on to Cynthia. Cynthia the model looked gorgeous as ever. But Cynthia bores me. Besides her being beautiful, Cynthia brings nothing else to this show. So now on to crazy ass Kenya. So Kenya was there. Kenya looked beautiful as well, but she brought props with her and Kenya just was ready to agitate the hell out of all these women. So let's go ahead and break down the reunion. So in my personal opinion, I feel like a lot of folks like to get on Mona Scott Young and say, you know what, Mona's messy and she's always exploiting black people. But it seems like folks never get on Andy Cohen. Andy Cohen is just as messy also. All the questions that he read during the reunion show, it's like he picked the most messiest questions to ask. So the first question he was asking about the whole thing about folks being mad at Kandi for always being late. And Candy's like, you know what, I'm not the only person who's late. It just seems like whenever people are late on Nene's time, Nene has an attitude. And then Andy asks Nene, well, how do you feel, now that Candy's play is successful, how come that you were acting like, her play was beneath you and like you didn't want to be a part of her play? And Nene was like, she gets offered so many jobs, she just didn't have time to do Candy's play. She's like, I'm not knocking Kandi. I'm not saying that her play was going to be terrible, but I just get offered too much work. Every time Nene says she gets offered all this abundance of work, I just give the bitch the side eye. Because besides The Apprentice, Glee, The New Normal, and Dancing with the Stars, I haven't seen that much of Nene all through Hollywood. So I don't understand how she acts like she's getting offered all these roles. Now, they also talked about the situation where they were talking about Kandi's weight. And Kandi put it all out there. She was like, first of all, look at me and look at Nene. I'm a lot smaller than Nene. Nene has no room to talk about nobody's weight. Nene's ass couldn't do nothing but just sit there with a fucking stone face like... She just sat there looking at the camera just, stiff as hell, just mad. Because everything Kandi was saying was the truth. And then Andy also confronted Kenya about, what she had said about Kandi's weight too. And once again, Kenya's lying ass wants to sit here and deflect and say, well, I wasn't saying it. It was just a joke. It was just in jest. But Kenya has mentioned Kandi's weight several times throughout the show. She's made fun of Kandi's weight. So Kenya's just another phony who refuses to take accountability for anything that she says about these other women. But then Andy decides to ask Phaedra basically why Phaedra felt the need to keep calling Kenya a whore and kept slut-shaming Kenya all through the season. And Phaedra felt like, you know what, Kenya talks shit about everybody. She done talked about my weight. She done made all types of little sly comments. But you guys noticed that Andy didn't address that with Kenya. It seems like whenever people call Kenya out on her bullshit, Andy don't ever follow through with it. He just wants to confront all the other women about shit that they said about Kenya, like she's a fucking queen of the show. Like I've always said, I don't agree with Phaedra, you know, slut shaming Kenya because her husband's no good also. Her husband allowed Kenya to disrespect their marriage just as well, so she can't get mad at Kenya. But let's not act like Kenya's some type of victim. Let's not act like Kenya wasn't instigating a lot of this shit as well. So I just wasn't feeling the way that Andy kept trying to play both sides of the fence. Next scene, Andy decides to ask Kenya about the whole situation with Velvet, and all the ladies admit that Velvet really did die, and she said that she's still heartbroken over Velvet. And then Phaedra makes a comment that Velvet was her only friend, and then all of a sudden Kenya goes from crying to trying to pop off on Phaedra, and I'm like, this broad is so phony and fake. You was just crying a second ago about your dog, now you ready to get crunk. And Phaedra makes a comment and she says, you know, Kenya has a boyfriend, his name is Casper, the friendly boyfriend, and everybody just starts laughing. And then she claims that Nene met her boyfriend, and Nene's like, no bitch, I didn't meet your boyfriend. Some African man came running up to me and he was saying something about Kenya Moore, but I didn't know who he was. I don't believe that that was your boyfriend. So then Kenya just gets quiet. But I found a picture of Kenya's boyfriend, and rumor has it, this is her boyfriend right here. Y'all go ahead and check out this picture of Kenya's African prince. So while folks are arguing back and forth about Kenya's so-called boyfriend, Kenya lets it be known that once again she has 99 problems, but getting dick ain't one. And I'm like, this is going to be the new top anthem of the year. And we all know that Kenya Moore is the queen of all tots. I mean, my thing is, this woman is damn near 50, and once again she's bragging about how she has 99 problems, but a dick ain't one. First of all, ma'am, anybody can get dick, like I said before. That's not a prize. That's something to pat yourself on the back about. Damn near everybody and their mama gets offered dick. So why this woman keeps bragging about that, it makes no sense to me. Until she can get a real man and not an imaginary boyfriend to settle down with her, create a family with her, create some type of bond with her, I'm not buying none of Kenya's tears or her bullshit need for validation. So while they're going back and forth, Porsha lets it be known that there's this Nigerian singer and that Kenya was supposedly offering him money to be her boyfriend on the show. So then Kenya gets pissed off and she grabs her little specter out and she starts pointing it at Porsha. So then Porsha snatches the damn specter out her hand and tells Kenya, don't you ever point shit in my face. The next time you point that in my face, it's going straight up your ass, right in between them balloon cheeks. Lord, when she said that, I felt the hell out. I'm like, Porsha is a damn fool. This bitch done went from being a damn YouTube pastor, preaching on YouTube, to threatening to shove a specter up Kenya's ass. I'm like, damn, Porsha done came a long way. Her ass done went from being a preacher to being about that damn life. Moving on to the next scene. So after Porsha snatches the damn specter out of her hand, Kenya tells her, you know what, you might be able to snatch it out of my hand, but I bet you can't spell specter. And then, you know, of course, it's crickets because we all know Porsha can't spell. So then Kenya turns around and she grabs a megaphone and she's trying to put the battery in and the shit's not even ready. And Candy's clowning her like, how you gonna bring a prop and the prop ain't even ready? And Candy's rolling her eyes. Candy is cracking me up because she's steadily rolling her eyes and throwing little shots. Kenya gets the megaphone ready and she just starts yelling and telling folks to be quiet and shut up. And you know, her and Porsha are going back and forth. Porsha's throwing a lot of shots at her, calling her a whore and everything else. And Kenya's telling Porsha to shut the fuck up. And poor Cynthia's in between all this madness. You know, poor Cynthia's just sitting there stone faced. It's like she's a deer in headlights. She doesn't know what to do. And then finally Porsha just reaches her breaking point. Kenya is yelling at her through this megaphone. Porsha jumps up. And as she jumps up, her hand ends up snatching Cynthia's dress and her boob pops out her dress, y'all. When I tell y'all folks on Twitter, don't miss shit. This scene had me cracking up. They get up, now they're in each other's faces. Andy tries to get in between them and all of a sudden out the blue, Porsha just grabs Kenya's head and drags that bitch across the stage and they go falling on the ground, okay? So when that happened, I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm thinking they're about to be on the floor boxing. I'm thinking Porsha's gonna get on top of her and just start punching in her face and doing all types of shit. That's what I'm expecting because for weeks upon weeks, these motherfuckers at Bravo and Andy Cohen's thirsty ass have been basically promoting this fight like it was a damn knockout draw. And all they did was pull hair. I was so damn disappointed. I was on Twitter going off. You know, the thing that pisses me off about this whole situation is the fact that, you know, Andy wants to basically start all this shit, stir the pot, and then wash his hands. One thing I can't stand is a person who throws rocks and then calls themselves trying to hide their hands. He wants to sit here and get mad at Porsha and demand that Porsha apologize to Kenya. You know, he's like, well, we're not about this. We're not about violence. You're not supposed to put your hands on anybody. My thing is, where was this no violence policy when Teresa had put put her hands on Danielle? Where was this posse when Teresa pushed her ass out the way to go punch Danielle in the face? Where was this posse when Joe Giudice and Joe Gorga were fighting all over your show? It seems like it's funny and it's okay when it's the white folks fighting on here, but once it's the black folks, now he wants to distance himself. You know, and that's why I feel like Bravo's full of shit, and I don't like people who try and throw rocks and hide their hands, because like I said, for weeks, they use these fights, not only the fight between Apollo and Brandon, but this reunion fight. They played it over and over. They kept promoting it. This fight was so hyped up. You had Kenya calling 911. You had a warrant out for Porsha's arrest. Porsha turns herself in. She takes this beautiful mugshot. It's like all this was meant to promote this reunion, and all this was meant to promote the show. This was one of the highest grossing shows in the history of the Real Housewives, period. Out of any franchise, this was one of the highest rated seasons. Bravo and Andy have both stated this. And how come it was highest rated? Because they promoted these fights over and over and over again. But then once Andy started receiving backlash on the internet, once folks started going in on him by stirring the pot, now he wants to try and play mediator. Now he wants to try and play innocent. And I just call bullshit. To me, that was not a fight. The only people who got boosted about that whack-ass fight are folks who have never been in a fight a day in their lives. You know what I'm saying? Because a real fight does not consist of hair pulling. And my thing is, I don't understand is, after Porsha, you know what I'm saying, went there and put her hands on Kenya, what the fuck was she throwing a tantrum for? You're a 32-year-old woman. She's crawling around on the floor and crying. I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe she made me just come out my character. I can't stand that ratchet bitch. Put on your big girl drawers. You knew what you was doing. Don't blame blacking out. Don't blame all that shit. Be grown. The bitch was talking shit, so I drug her ass. Point blank, period. I make no apologies for my actions. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? What the hell is she crying for? She act like Kenya Moore whooped her ass. Kenya wasn't even crying. It's like this fight was so hyped up. I went from damn eating popcorn with Michael Jackson to looking like this after the damn fight. I was hot when I seen that bullshit. They done hyped this crap up all season only to just see some damn hair pulling. You know, I don't feel bad for Kenya and I don't feel bad for Porsha either. Y'all know I'm not team nobody. I'm team me, fi me. I worry about TT and I do commentaries. I see it. I'm not on nobody's fucking team. This whole reunion was just a hot mess. I was very disappointed because they hyped it up. And then once they hyped it up, then they wanted to try and distance themselves from the fight. They wanted to try and distance themselves from Porsha. Get the fuck out of here. Y'all used that woman for ratings. Y'all used Kenya's situation for ratings. Y'all sat here and put Kenya on this fucking throne. You guys never confronted Kenya about her accountability, about how she talked to the other women. Kenya is just as much as a shit star as anybody else on that show. All these women are two-faced. Point blank. None of these women are innocent, including Kandi. I fucks with Kandi. Kandi's about her money, but she's throwing shots at Nene. Nene has thrown shots at her. Phaedra throws shots at Kenya. Kenya throws shots at Phaedra. Cynthia's messy as hell and she likes to throw rocks and hide her hands. Porsha talked just as much shit about Kenya as Kenya talked about her. So none of these women on this show are innocent. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like how Bravo tries to play favorites and everything else. I just don't like hypocrites. Don't sit there and put Real Housewives of New Jersey on this pedestal and act like it's okay when they go back and forth, when they argue, when Teresa's flipping over tables, that's okay. But then when Kenya and Porsha get into it, all of a sudden you want to lecture Porsha like she's a little fucking girl. Kenya knew what time it was. Kenya started a lot of shit and I don't feel bad for Kenya getting drugged by the hair. Porsha is a grown woman, and as a grown woman, you know you're not supposed to hit nobody. But if it gets to the point where you feel like you need to put your hands on somebody, then own up to this shit. Don't sit here and throw a tantrum like a 4-year-old and act like you had no self-control and you had no choice in the matter. Porsha could have easily just walked off. She could have walked away, but she chose to put her hands on Kenya. So fuck it. You chose to put your hands on Kenya. Own up to this shit. Quit trying to play dissy. Quit trying to act like a little teenager who didn't know any better. I just felt really disappointed because I felt like the whole reunion was just overly hyped. It was a lot of shit talking and they just really hyped up this fight. And I like the fact that Andy was trying to chastise her and talk down to her as a kid and say that she needs to go apologize. If she needs to apologize, so does Kenya. You know what I'm saying? Kenya is no innocent than Porsha is. They were both acting like immature ass adults, and that's my opinion on this whole reunion situation. So that's my opinion on this whole reunion situation. I don't feel bad for any of these damn grown ass women. Half these women are old enough to be my mama's age and they still want to run around here and act like they in their early 20s and act like chicken heads. If you want to act like a hood rat and you want to act like a chicken head on television for my entertainment purposes, you best believe I'm going to tune in and watch that shit. So I will be tuning in next week to part 2. So make sure you go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. This whole situation was a mess. Are you team Porsha? Are you team Kenya? Are you like me, team I don't give a shit? And then how do you feel about Andy Cohen, you know what I'm saying, stirring the pot, asking all these instigating questions, and then trying to distance himself once the fight goes down? Do you feel like people always attack Mona Scott Young, but yet and still never hold Andy accountable for all the shit that he does on his damn network as well? So let me know your thoughts on this entire episode. All right, deuces.